gets here later. Tonight, actually, he's getting done with his vacation. So he should be here, I don't know, hopefully this afternoon. Should we do a major camp tomorrow? Do you think? I think that'd be good. Anyway, he'll be here in Florida. He loves the ocean. That dog is great. Hey, everybody, welcome to Vince on a Thursday. It's great to have you with us, as always. Today, a big show ahead. Bob Mueller, remember him? Apparently, he's lost his mind. We'll get into the details about that coming up. Also, we've got new revelations related to the way that we're conducting border enforcement in the country. The left is once again freaking out about this. I'll get into some of the details there. And the shooting at Fort Stewart that took place yesterday, we've got some of the latest breaking news on that subject, literally just in the last few moments. And then I want to take a close look at what is happening in the investigation into Obama and all of the people around him. And to do that today, John Solomon is here. If you have friends who don't understand this story or who are if you yourself are looking forward to the answers coming up, John Solomon has been a great source of information, which is why we're having him right here on Vince today. It's going to be great. It's all ahead. Great to be with you as always. Love to see you here. Before we dive into the rest of the program, you got to know something, though, about who supports it. It's Blackout Coffee. I got my Blackout Coffee this morning. Love my Blackout Coffee. It's proudly the official coffee of everybody here at Silverlock. There's a reason for that. This is bold, unapologetic, America First coffee that's roasted fresh right here in the United States. It's not grocery store junk. Blackout Coffee delivers rich, high-quality roasts that actually taste like freedom. Let me taste some freedom. Hold up. Have you had this freedom before? The freedom, oh my goodness, that's some freedom. And now you can set it and forget it with auto refill and recurring delivery. That means no more running out, no more watered down backups, just your favorite roast delivered fresh on your schedule. Pick your favorite roast and how often you want it delivered. Not only do you get a discount, you also get double the rewards and free shipping to your doorstep. It's delicious coffee. You should get some. Here's what to do. Go to blackoutcoffee.com/Vince. Use the code Vince. That's VINCE. And you'll get 20% off. 20% off your first order. Whether you're into bold, dark roasts, flavored coffee, even instant, Blackout's got your back. Real coffee, no compromise. Blackoutcoffee.com/Vince. Get yours now. Blackout Coffee. Thank you to Blackout Coffee. Okay, Bob Mueller. You remember that guy? That was a special counsel, Bob Mueller, who was appointed during the first Trump administration. The point of that effort was to try and stagger the Trump presidency and breathe all sorts of life into the idea that Trump had colluded with the Russians to steal the 2016 election and then would subsequently be a president that was beholden to the Russians, beholden to Vladimir Putin. It was all so freaking insane. But Bob Mueller was, at the time, he was considered a respected veteran of Washington, a former FBI director who would be the perfect man to oversee all of this responsibly. I think at one point they were saying to us, he's a Republican even, so whatever actually happened, he'll tell us the truth and we can all walk away from it. And of course, at the end of the day, the Mueller report did establish that there was no collusion between Russia and President Trump, but it was after a very painful and staggering process that finally came out. But here's why Bob Mueller's name is in the news again this week. The reason is because the House Oversight Committee has sent subpoenas out demanding the appearance of all sorts of people before their committee, to include former attorneys general, people like Eric Holder and Loretta Lynch. They also want Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton to appear. And they're also asking for Bob Mueller to appear in his capacity as former FBI director. This is all related to the digging that the Oversight Committee is doing into the Jeffrey Epstein saga and why the government went so easy on him to begin with and why Bill Clinton was so close to him and what else may have happened between Clinton, Epstein, and God knows who else. That's an important mission that the Oversight Committee is digging into. But this subpoena to Bob Mueller is interesting. And the reason I say that is because in the last 24 hours, we've gotten an indication from Real Clear Investigations, as well as the Daily Mail, that Bob Mueller is actually living in a, quote, memory care facility. In other words, it's unlikely that his testimony is going to be in any way useful. Robert Mueller, the former FBI director and the former special counsel, the Daily Caller reports, is allegedly residing in a memory care facility, sources telling Real Clear Investigations. The report emerged as James Comer, of course, is seeking him to testify. Mueller has allegedly been living in this memory care facility for the past few years, says Paul Sperry, he's great, from Real Clear Investigations. Mueller was issued a subpoena to testify before the committee on September 2nd. September 2nd, that'll be next month, as about the FBI's investigation into Epstein during the George W. Bush administration. And then they go on to, the Daily Caller goes on to point out that he was special counsel as well. But, okay, so he's been in a memory care facility the last few years? For those of us who saw Bob Mueller testify in the first place, this is back in 2019, we knew that Bob Mueller wasn't all there at all. In fact, remember this moment? Here's one of many during his disastrous testimony before Congress. Cut 1, Bob Mueller talking about his own Mueller report on Trump-Russia collusion. Take a look.
When you talk about the firm that produced the Steele reporting, the name of the firm that produced that was Fusion GPS. Is that correct?
I'm not familiar with that.
Let me just help you. It's not a trick question. Right? It was Fusion GPS.
I'm not familiar with that. One of the critical components of the entire saga was that Hillary Clinton laundered a bunch of money to Fusion GPS to invent allegations about President Trump. Everyone familiar with this story was familiar with that. And Fusion GPS's name was definitely mentioned throughout the Mueller report. So what was that all about? Well, the answer is that Bob Mueller, like Joe Biden, was already losing it by the time he was appointed as special counsel. He was merely used in that role. His reputation was merely used in that role. Recall back that it wasn't Mueller who was really running that investigation. The person who was doing that was who the New York Times called Mueller's legal pit bull, a cable news contributor now by the name of Andrew Weissman. It was Weissman who ran the operation. Weissman had a reputation for being vicious, for being political, and he demonstrated all of those qualities in the Mueller investigation, trying to destroy the lives of not just President Trump, but everyone around him. That was Weissman's hand in that event. And so now we're told that he's in a memory care facility. Now, based on his testimony, I believe it. It's not just some convenient excuse that he's in a memory care facility or something that they just cooked up in order to prevent him from testifying. Mueller's memory doesn't work. His brain is not healthy. And that was true back when they used him to go after Trump. This, by the way, is just confirmation of what you and I suspected in the first place. In fact, I went back and I looked at all of the Mueller coverage from that time, from the testimony, and among the people who talked about this and said, that's dementia was Mark Levin. Mark Levin was on television the very next day saying, that looks like dementia to me. At the time, people said, you can't say that. You can't diagnose him like this. He's like, I'm just telling you what I think. I'm just telling you what it looks like to me. And to the rest of us, it certainly looked like that as well. And now we find out Bob Mueller is indeed inside of a memory care facility. That said, I want to emphasize something. All of these people who are going to testify under as a matter of legal obligation, a subpoena is legally binding. They don't have a choice. They've got to show. When they do appear before Congress, I am praying that the Oversight Committee, and I'm begging the Oversight Committee here, not merely focus on the Epstein case. You should. But when you have these people in front of you, you have to talk to them about Russiagate. You have to. You have to talk to them about their role. And if you actually get Hillary Clinton to sit in front of you, you've got to really browbeat that woman into submission. And yes, some of them are going to claim the Fifth Amendment. They're going to try and squirm out of this. Some of them may even try and skip this. If they do, hold them in contempt of Congress, refer them to the United States Department of Justice, have the Justice Department go and do what they did to Peter Navarro, put them in leg shackles at the airport, and drag them to jail. It's the only way to do it. The only way to do it. And it's the fair way to handle all of this. So that's coming up. We will see. We've got some other big things going on. There was. Are you guys seeing these the videos getting around right now of the Border Patrol agents using rented Penske trucks to take people into custody in Los Angeles? So Border Patrol, what they did was they sent Border Patrol agents to a densely populated with MS-13 area of Los Angeles. So Border Patrol's going after these MS-13 gangsters. They load Border Patrol agents into the back of a Penske truck, and then they bring it straight up into the area where MS-13 is. And then these guys all jump out of the truck. It's one of my favorite videos on the internet right now. Take a look at this. Matt Finn over at Fox News getting the exclusive. All of these guys leaping out of the truck, and then they started to take MS-13 gangsters, illegal aliens, into custody to eject them from the country. Now, note something here. You see there's a camera inside the vehicle. This isn't outsiders taking these shots. This is the Trump administration capturing this footage and releasing it publicly for a reason. The whole point of this is to convey to illegal aliens, and especially MS-13 gangsters, you want to stay in our country, you're going to be trebucheted out of it. And we're going to send Penske trucks full of agents after you to do that very thing. So that's great.
If we want to keep...
Really great. Now, in reaction to all of this, first and foremost, you get the mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass, is absolutely bitching and moaning that illegal immigration enforcement is taking place right now in the country. Take a look at cut 6 here. Here's LA Mayor Karen Bass whining that these guys are doing this job.
From the video and from the stills, it looks like the exact same thing that we were seeing before the TRO, which is running through Home Depot. And maybe they were waving a warrant, but I didn't see one. We have to be very, very careful not to cross the line, because I know, back to Bill Asaley, would love to press federal charges on people, and so we can't interfere, but we can exercise our First Amendment right and document.
You hear what she just said? I love that. I actually missed it on First Pass. So Karen Bass is saying, first of all, she's angry that immigration enforcement's happening in her city. We tried to stop this. We don't want this to happen. And to be clear, Karen Bass and Gavin Newsom and all of the idiots who run California, they're taking money from the illegal alien lobby. They're taking money from organizations that support the invasion of our country. So when push comes to shove, they always back the illegal aliens against the interests of their own American citizen residents. That's just true. But you heard what she said there. She referenced a guy called Bill Asaley. For those of you who've been following the show for a while, you know Bill Asaley is the U.S. Attorney for the Central District of California. In other words, his job is L.A. If federal crimes are being committed in the area of Los Angeles, he gets to prosecute them. And Bill loves prosecuting, loves it. If you commit a crime, a federal crime, Bill Asaley's coming after you, and for good reason. Bill's been the guy who came up with the concept of, wait a second, if we have illegal aliens who've entered the country multiple times, those are felonies. We don't have to issue detainer requests to these jails. Let's just issue warrants for the arrests of these illegals who've committed felonies. He's doing it. And the effect of that is the jails can't just release people out the back door like they have been with detainer requests. Now, under penalty of federal law, they have to hand over these illegal aliens to the Trump administration for deportation. Bill's been doing a great job. He's not fully confirmed in the role, by the way. He needs to be. But in the meantime, he's sticking around in whatever capacity he can, and the Trump administration is succeeding there. And Karen Bass hates this. She hates it that this is happening. And she even says, look, we got to be careful. If we break federal law, he's going to prosecute us. Good. Run scared. Run scared. And don't break federal law. Stay out of the way. If you're not going to do this, stay out of the way and let these Border Patrol agents pour out of Penske trucks and arrest all these people. That's good news. Now, the Penske Truck Corporation, which is like, it is so crazy that this is happening. I want to show you something here. The Penske rental truck company has absolutely stepped in it today. Take a look at this statement from Penske. Statement from Penske Truck Rental that was released yesterday afternoon in Eastern time. Here's what they said. They said, Penske Truck Rental is aware of recent reports and videos regarding a Department of Homeland Security operation in Los Angeles. Penske strictly prohibits the transportation of people in the cargo area of its vehicles under any circumstances. The company was not made aware that its trucks would be used in today's operation and did not authorize this. Penske will reach out to DHS and reinforce its policy to avoid improper use of its vehicles in the future. Are you catching all of this? So Penske has released a statement condemning the good guys from doing their job. Now, I get it. Penske may have a policy, I'm sure they do, against people renting their trucks for human transport, that humans shouldn't be in the cargo area of the truck. That's all well and good. It makes sense that a rental company might have that policy. But what doesn't make sense is that they release a scolding statement directed at DHS for getting MS-13 gangsters out of the country. They're rounding up a bunch of Kilmar Abrego Garcias and getting them out of our country, which is what they should be doing. And so the Penske PR shop, what they should be doing is keeping their stupid traps shut. The last thing they should be doing is condemning these guys for doing the job. And yet they are. They come out with this idiotic statement saying, oh, you're not supposed to do that. Now, as so many have pointed out, and it was first, I think, my buddy Sean Davis who pointed this out. Pull this up on screen, fellas. Look at this one. This is a headline from 2023. Fox News headline, Sean Davis grabs, border agents find 58 migrants crammed into a Penske truck in alleged human smuggling. 58 illegals were crammed into a truck in a human smuggling operation. Marquez Oviel, an illegal immigrant from Mexico, was arrested and faces federal human smuggling charges, according to the Texas DPS. Penske didn't release a statement about this. There wasn't public statements telling people you shouldn't transport humans in the back of your vehicle. And so if the cartels do it, shrug. But if DHS does it, it's time for a scolding statement. It's time for a scolding statement. Yeah. Chronoflux says, stop saying migrants. That's exactly right. I'm with you, Chronoflux. It's like these, I don't know why they do this. Although they've been doing this. I mean, this is an older headline, 2023. But it is wild. It is wild. Somebody says, Vince, stop. It's a liability issue. No, wrong. Completely wrong. Of course they have liability issues. That is handled when you sign the paperwork to rent the truck. That's how the liability issues is handled. What they just did, what Penske just did, is it's an idiotic PR move, which they shouldn't have done. They should have kept their mouths shut and let DHS do its job, because they, like the rest of us, should be rooting on the country here and getting these guys any way we can. And that video, the only reason we had to see that, or we got to see that video, was because the Trump administration shared it. And it's yet another sign that this administration understands the power of the visual medium and the power of the narrative in order to get its business done. So for every raid with a Penske truck that these guys do, that's going to be maybe 10 people who self-deport out of the country. This is going to pay off exponentially. If people see that this is the consequence, they're out. The New York Times had reporting earlier this year that you have Venezuelan men and men from El Salvador who are seeing the images of illegal aliens being picked up in our country and being taken to CICOT in El Salvador. That's the holding prison for terrorists that President Bukele's got running. When that video started getting out intentionally, you had these men all across the country, regardless of whether or not they're gangsters. They saw that and they started self-deporting. We've had millions of people leave our country since President Trump has arrived of their own volition. They're just getting out. And here's one of the upsides here. I need to emphasize. This is one of the few times where the media's lying has helped us. What do you mean, Vince? How does the media lying help us? I'll tell you how. The media are acting like President Trump is mercilessly rounding all sorts of human beings up and then sending them off to terror prisons. That random grandmas who've been illegally working in the country as gardeners are going to end up being taken to CCOT in El Salvador with all of the terror guys. That's the way the press has presented this. They're like, oh, look at all these poor people. What else? What have they done wrong? They entered the country illegally, but other than that, what have they done? And so the media's lies about this subject has led to rampant disinformation that the president is being even more aggressive than any of us could possibly realize, that they're sending the grandmas to CCOT. The effect of that has been that because the media lies about this subject, more people are self-deporting. They don't want the heat. They're even believing the lies about what's happening here. So it is remarkable to watch, and I'm glad to see it. One more piece of this. I told you yesterday that we've got Alligator Alcatraz down in Florida. I'm down in Florida. Alligator Alcatraz. In Indiana, we've got the Speedway Slammer now, which I love. And then I got some suggestions yesterday, and I wasn't able to go through all of them, but here, I'll just read you one. Kevin from Idaho wrote in to tell me that he lives in Idaho, and of course the potato, famous in Idaho. So Kevin from Idaho suggests that his state should open the potato penitentiary. You like that? Yeah, I like that. Throw people in the potato penitentiary. Not for long, though. It's going to be a short stay. Don't plan on staying long. It's going to be a very short stay with the potatoes. And then you're gone. All right. We've got, that's illegal aliens. We've also got problems here in the United States to talk about. There was a shooting at Fort Stewart yesterday. This is one of the biggest military bases in the country, certainly the biggest Army base east of the Mississippi in Georgia. We will talk about that coming up. I want to kind of give you the latest. There is some breaking news this morning on the subject. The way that the soldiers responded when one other soldier started opening fire on the crowd. Stories of heroism that we will highlight here in just a moment on Vince. We've got a lot of choices for cell phone service out there. New ones are popping up all the time. It's true. But here's the truth for you. There's only one that boldly stands in the gap for every American and that believes that freedom is worth fighting for. That's Patriot Mobile. The good news is you can switch to Patriot Mobile today without sacrificing quality or service. Are you worried about coverage? No need. Don't be. Patriot Mobile uses all three major U.S. networks. If you have service in the country today, you'll have as good or better coverage with Patriot Mobile. Think switching is a hassle? It's not. You can keep your number, keep your phone, or even upgrade. Patriot Mobile's 100% U.S.-based team is going to get you activated in minutes from the comfort of your own home. Stuck on a contract? Owe money on your phone? No worries. Patriot Mobile has a contract buyout program. This is how you win. By aligning your spending with your values. Every dollar that we spend really does matter. So go to patriotmobile.com/Vince or call 972-PATRIOT. Use the promo code Vince and get a free month of service. Switch today. That's patriotmobile.com/Vince or call 972-PATRIOT. Patriot. Is Fort Bragg bigger? It might be bigger. Well, at any rate, Fort Stewart is a big base. And we have news about what exactly happened here. In fact, this morning, let me start with the top lines on this for just a quick moment. The New York Times had a piece summarizing this overnight, that a sergeant is accused of shooting 5 soldiers in his unit at Fort Stewart. And they say he opened fire on his own unit there. He sent a cryptic text message to his aunt before the shooting, according to the sergeant's father. Soon the sergeant wrote he would be in a better place. So this guy thought that he was going to die. This was a suicide by cop. He was going to open fire and thought that he would be killed in the attack. 5 soldiers were wounded in the attack at Fort Stewart Hunter Army Airfield Wednesday morning. It ended when other soldiers tackled the gunman. The victims are expected to recover. Officials have identified the suspect as Sergeant Cornelius Radford, 28 years old, an automated logistics sergeant from Jacksonville, Florida, assigned to the 2nd Brigade Combat Team. The New York Times says they talked to the guy's dad, and the father suggested that he had complained about racism at Fort Stewart and has since conducted an attack, but they have him in custody. That's a very big deal. Here's the Secretary of the Army this morning after 6 soldiers were awarded medals already this morning for their valor in yesterday's attack. Take a look as the Secretary of the Army describes their actions.
One of the more important things we were able to do this morning, though, is to recognize the heroism of these 6 soldiers. One of the soldiers tackled the person, so just think about this. They were unarmed and ran at and tackled an armed person who they knew was actively shooting their buddies, their colleagues, their fellow soldiers. Another soldier jumped on top of the person to subdue them until federal law enforcement was able to arrive. The other soldiers, immediately using their training that they had developed over years and years, started to take care of mass casualties. The hospital they took them to in March had just run a mass casualty exercise for a moment just like this. The Army does not want these moments to happen, but it stands ready when necessary to act and care for those when it does.
Love hearing this, the soldiers reacted the way that you'd expect soldiers to react, with valor and without concern for personal well-being. They just got in there and they tackled this guy. They were all unarmed on that base. The gunman, of course, the only one with the gun in that situation. For more on this, I want to bring in some expert help. Scott Bryson is a former Secret Service agent, a law enforcement guy with a lot of expertise in self-defense. He teaches it all the time. Scott, thank you for helping us out today, sir. Appreciate you being here.
Hey, Vince, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
What do you make of this attack? What do you think went down here?
Well, I think we're learning more, obviously, than through the night than we learned yesterday. I did some research on it, and I couldn't find a whole lot on it. To hear you report on the alleged racism comments that his father made, I think that's a trend in the wrong direction. So I'm not really sure. I'm not inside this man's brain,
right?
But we talk about it all the time. Evil has a way of manifesting itself, and racism is usually a ploy that they use, or mental health. It doesn't excuse it. This is absolutely ridiculous. And I'm so glad that the Army has already awarded these guys, because talk about heroism, that's acting out of straight courage.
Give me your sense of the way people should react in a situation like this. If a guy starts opening fire, nobody around him apparently is armed. That's by design, I would say, somewhat unfortunately, that even soldiers, men who are trained to use weapons, are not allowed to carry them. And yet they still reacted by tackling the shooter. Assess what you can about a situation like that.
Yeah. Well, first of all, these gun-free zones are ridiculous. These cowards show up where they know the people that they're going to attack can't fight back. So that is a straight beta, if there ever was. What a coward. So I think, number one, we have to do away with some of this gun-free nonsense. The Second Amendment is a beautiful thing, and we need to operate under the color of the law, for sure. I'm not suggesting that people break the law, but we need to be able to defend ourselves, number one. Number two, there's a thing called the OODA loop. You may be familiar with it. Most of your audience probably is. It's you observe it, you orient it, you decide, and you act. And the person that's going to get through that OODA loop the fastest usually wins the day. And that's what these guys did. They saw the problem, they reacted, and they made a decision, and they jumped on it. The human body is designed for fight or flight. And I know not everybody's a fighter, and that's okay. But you have to do something. If you freeze in these moments, you're going to be another casualty.
So the message there is, don't hesitate. Once you make a decision about what you're going to do, commit to it.
You have to commit. You have to, obviously, observing it's pretty easy. And then you orient yourself to it. I think what happens in police work and military talk, a lot of the jargon is you get stuck in your OODA loop. So guys see it, but they can't make a decision, or if they make a decision, they get frozen and can't act. You have to act. And you know what? Here's the thing. Running is okay. If you have to run, that's okay. But if you're running, you should be on 911 right now.
It is remarkable. You have to believe it changes the math for a shooting like this to take place among soldiers who are already conditioned to be prepared for combat, some of whom I'm sure that were in that shooting had seen combat. They reacted swiftly. This is an unusual circumstance where somebody opens fire like this in such a dramatic mass shooting event, and yet is tackled and kept alive. It's pretty clear based on the messages I was reading this morning, Scott. This guy thought that he was going to have a suicide by cop, and I'd say if there's anything fortunate here, one, is that nobody lost their life, and two, it's that he didn't get to dictate the own terms of his exit.
No, I think that's right. A lot of times these people who, unfortunately do want to take their own lives don't have the courage to do so. So suicide by cop is a real thing. And you have to remember, if you're at work, minding your own business, and you're not expecting this to happen, if a person comes in doing that, they're not there to wound you. Thank God these people were just wounded, but they are there to kill you. And they're most likely going to want to die themselves. So you have to be prepared to act violently and quickly. And that's not everybody's going to want to necessarily pick up a pair of scissors and do something with those scissors, but we have things in the office that can help protect ourselves if need be, worst case.
The point you're making is that when you're confronted with deadly force, it is appropriate to meet it with deadly force.
100%. I've been in law enforcement for 30 years, and this past summer we watched a video of a police officer running over a man with a rifle walking down a street in Arizona or somewhere, I forget. And the younger police officers in the room thought that was egregious, but no, lethal force is lethal force. If someone's trying to kill you, you have the right to defend yourself, period.
Obviously, the military is a different environment than for most of us in civilian life. But Scott, do you think that the President of the United States and the Secretary of Defense should contemplate changing the rules on base around military service members being able to carry their own weapons?
Yes, absolutely. I don't understand all the nuance when it comes to military base protocol and policy because I wasn't in the military. But the Second Amendment should apply to everyone, right? If you're 18 years old and can join the military and go die for your country, why can't you defend yourself when you're at work? That's ridiculous.
Yeah, especially if you're trained to shoot accurately. It makes you, actually makes things safer in the end. Thank you very much, Scott Bryson. Appreciate you, sir. Great to have you here today.
Thank you, Vince.
All right, that's Scott Bryson, Secret Service alum, law enforcement guy, self-defense expert. He's done it all. Appreciate him helping us break that down, what's happening in Fort Stewart. And so we're picking up the pieces of that breaking news. If anything else transpires from that in a big way, we'll cover it here on the podcast or we'll cover it on the big national radio show each day from 12 to 3 Eastern time. All right, let's see here. Also, John Solomon is coming up. John Solomon, I've got a lot to talk to him about that, about what's going on with the Obamagate stuff. Hey, before we continue here, I've been using the Bone Charge infrared sauna blanket. I do love this thing. The sauna blanket is dynamite because, like most people, I don't have a sauna in my house, but now actually I kind of do. I've got the infrared sauna blanket. It works really well for me. After a workout, you get that sauna blanket on, it helps you big time. Relaxation, recovery. It's great. My wife's got the Bone Charge red light face mask. Allison loves that, and she puts that on each night, and it's been great for her. It creates a real difference for you. The red light face mask is about improving your skin's texture, reducing inflammation. It creates fantastic results. It's like having a mini spa treatment right at the house. If you're thinking about trying either of these products out, you are in luck. Head to bonecharge.com, use the code Vince at checkout, and get 15% off. Both of these products have made a huge impact on helping our wellness routines. I'm sure you're going to love them too. Use the code Vince at bonecharge, BON, to save 15%. These statements and products have not been evaluated by the FDA. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease or condition. Thank you to Bone Charge for supporting the program. God bless you for that. Also, thank you to Fatty15 for supporting this program. Do you ever think about aging? You ever think about aging? You're like, uh-oh, what's happening here? I do notice as I get older, my energy goes down. It has been. I've been trying to figure out ways to get it back. And I'm very excited to share with you C15 from Fatty15. It's the first essential fatty acid to be discovered in more than 90 years. It's true. I did the research into this and I said, this is legit. Fatty15 co-founder, Dr. Stephanie Van Watson, discovered the benefits of C15 while working with the U.S. Navy. And based on studies, we know that when our cells don't actually have enough C15, they age faster. Fatty15 can help repair and protect age-related damage to your cells and help activate pathways in the body that repair mechanisms that support our overall wellness. Fatty 15 is science-backed, award-winning, vegan, 100% pure C15 supplement, and refills are shipped right to your door. I take it every single day. In the morning, I get up and I take my various supplements, all the things I want to help me feel better and be healthy each day, and C15 is right there. That's the first thing I'm grabbing. Fatty 15 is on a mission to optimize your C15 levels to help support your long-term health and wellness, especially as you age. You can get an additional 15% off their 90-day subscription starter kit by going to fatty15.com/Vince. Use the code Vince at checkout. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Yes, indeed. All right, so we'll be joined here coming up by Mr. John Solomon, and we'll get an update from him on what exactly is happening with the Trump-Russia collusion hoax and the investigation into that. I think that's going to be worthwhile. Before we bring John in, though, I want to share some things going on with, let's see, should we cover, the Tim Cook event yesterday was really funny, guys, wasn't it? So Apple has decided that they would like to stay on President Trump's good side. And if you've noticed the stock market last night and today, Apple is doing very well right now. And the reason for that is really clear. At the moment, the President of the United States is not imposing tariffs on smartphone imports. But what he was able to secure in exchange for not imposing those tariffs is that Apple has just announced that they're going to be dumping a lot of money into the United States. Apple has just pledged in the last 24 hours to spend yet another $100 billion. That's now $600 billion in commitment from Apple, which is great. That's big news. They're going to be making lots of glass inside of the United States that they use in their products, like the iPhone and the Apple Watch. Wonderful. Here is Tim Cook yesterday, cut to presenting President Trump with a very unique Apple product. This is something they've never made for anybody else except for President Trump.
Show them a little bit about the product that you're going to be doing in Kentucky, Tim.
Absolutely. Do you mind if I step up?
Yes, please.
This box was made in the U.S., California, and this glass comes off the Corning line. It's engraved for President Trump. It's a unique unit of one. It was designed by a U.S. Marine Corps corporal, a former one, that works at Apple now.
That's good. He's done well.
Designed it for you. And the base comes from Utah.
Show them a little bit about the product that you're going to be doing in Kentucky, Tim.
So they made the glass and the gold base for this basically award that Apple made for President Trump were made in the United States from Apple's facilities here in America. And those numbers are going up very rapidly. $600 billion investment is not a small deal. It's a lot of money that Apple is committing to the United States. And the second and third order effects of that are you will have not only money spent in the United States, but those incomes then spent over and over and over for U.S. businesses and all of the other ancillary business interests that are here in America. So here we have a president. Biden never got this, by the way. He never secured investment like this. This is a Trump-only special. And Apple is desperate to impress the president because they know that his overriding concern is how many American jobs can we create. That is fantastic news. And here you have literally this morning, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, for some reason on Morning Joe, but he was there, cut 7, saying it's not just the hundreds of billions that Apple is sending our way. We're bringing in trillions and trillions. Take a look at this. Cut 7, Scott Bessent.
We're seeing these very large commitments, both from governments and from corporates. Tim Cook was in the Oval yesterday. Apple had committed $500 billion of new plant and equipment in the U.S. He's upped it to $600 billion, and he wants to make Apple an American company in terms of manufacturing, not just design. We've seen Micron Technologies. They were in visiting this week. They're going to put in $200 billion. So we've got trillions and trillions of manufacturing that's going to come back, and we're going to see that over the next couple of years.
Yep, love that. Very good. Last thing for the Apple development is take a look at President Trump concluding the event yesterday, cut 3, by calling Tim Cook a nerd. This is my favorite.
I want to thank Tim Cook. He's a great man, a visionary, a businessman, just about every quality he can have other than athleticism. I don't know. I'm looking at him. I'm not 100% sure about you. You're a good athlete. I'll bet you're pretty good. I think he's good at everything, but I want to thank you very much, Tim. Thank you, sir. Congratulations.
He's done it all. He's got everything except for athleticism. Ladies and gentlemen, don't you forget it. No one is ever going to do it like this guy. Ever again. So just appreciate these moments while we have them. They're so good. All right. But, if it was up to the left, we would have never had these moments. They tried to stop him. Hillary Clinton cooked up a whole scheme to stop him. It didn't work. But untangling that scheme, well, that's underway right now. And the guy who's following it perhaps closer than anybody is my next guest. John Solomon is the founder of Just the News. John, as always, good to see you, sir. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, good to be with you, Vince. Love the show.
I appreciate you. And so we've got a lot of developments, at least the public components of it that we're observing that seem promising to me. I'd like to see some justice here. The Justice Department announcing that they want to impanel a grand jury to go after this entire scheme dating back to 2016. Right. What can you tell us about how real this is and what the pieces of it are going to look like in the coming weeks?
Yeah, listen, I think it has the potential to be real, but it comes down to the decisions that Pam Bondi and the Justice Department make. Where do they put that grand jury? Do they investigate it narrowly, looking at things that are 8 years old, or do they investigate it as Kash Patel's FBI opened up, which is as one grand conspiracy case, a decade-long effort to misuse the color of authority of government to violate the civil liberties of Americans so that they could have a political advantage. Because that's really what this story is at the end of the day. We've had political dirty tricks as long as politics has been alive in America. Listen, the 1790s and the 1850s were just as rough and tumble politics as we have today, maybe even more so. We used to have some duels in Washington. I mean, literally with guns, we used to have duels. But here, and for the first time in the history of our country, we allowed a political dirty trick to be carried out by the FBI and the CIA and the intelligence community. That's a Rubicon we had never before passed in our history. I remember, I'm old enough to remember, and was a student of Watergate as well, but the Watergate hearings, the moment that the Republican Party turned on Richard Nixon was the moment that they learned that he had asked the CIA to block the FBI from investigating the break-in. Just the mere thought of using the CIA to take care of a political problem was enough for an entire political party to bolt from their president. Now we have a CIA and FBI that clearly were fully implicated in Hillary Clinton's dirty trick, and the Democratic Party doesn't even see a thing wrong. They want to just say nothing to see here after lying to us about that for 10 years. That is a big issue for the American public, because if we allow this to go unpunished, we will go from the greatest constitutional republic to the biggest banana republic overnight. The grand jury will most likely be in Florida if it does the grand conspiracy, because Florida is where Jack Smith's last acts were, and then you wind your way back to 16. I also think this is big enough to look like the civil rights investigations that we did in the 70s with the CIA and the FBI. It may be time for Congress to think about a truth commission. Get the American people the truth in a comprehensive and coherent way. Some of the stories hard to tell, but a truth commission could help the American people realize this is in the epic annals of scandals in American history.
One thing that we heard this week from the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, is that right now the Justice Department is requesting more documents from her dating back to 2016. What that tells me, John, is that even though the statute of limitations would have already run on individual crimes, that if you're requesting documents to 2016, you're doing a conspiracy case, meaning this sounds to me like a very real conspiracy investigation.
Yeah, I think that's where they're headed, and that's where the predicate is set up by the FBI. And what I will say, in great credit to both the FBI director and the attorney general, is that they're following the norms. They're not hijacking cases like James Comey did when he'd bring his magic wand on and make things disappear. They're following the norms. Career FBI people open up a case. Justice evaluates that, appoints a strike force because it's a very complicated conspiracy case. We only appoint strike forces for things like the mob and drug cartels. So now the Obama administration and its successors are being viewed in that same light. And then after the strike force gets up and running and you start to see some of the early evidence, you go and get a grand jury. So they're following the norms, which ought to be refreshing to the American people, that we're following the process that career people normally follow and not some politically hijacked retribution investigation. So it's following the way the Justice Department used to work.
Whenever we talk about stories like this, I often measure their authenticity based on how much screeching I hear from the left. And we're hearing a lot of it
measure.
right now.
Oh, yeah.
How
They're
do
in
you
pain.
assess the left's reaction to this? John Brennan certainly seems like the guy with the most obvious evidence against him. What's going on there?
I think they all realize that this is a moment of consequence. Whether it's a criminal moment of consequence will depend on what the grand jurors think when they see the full body of evidence. But all of them know that the cover story that they've been getting away with on CNN and MSNBC is being pierced every day, that their old stories look foolish to the American people now, that you can't pull the wool over the American people's eyes anymore. And for people like Barack Obama, you know, at this point in his life, what's left for him is his legacy. And his legacy could be significantly rewritten by the factual basis of what we have. We have a story up today that's, I think, really important. Barack Obama slipped during an interview with National Public Radio in December 2016. He was either the first clairvoyant president in American history, or the fix was in, because he knew on December 18th that the CIA was going to reverse itself and conclude that Vladimir Putin tried to help Donald Trump win, which is opposite of what the intelligence community believed, and they had good reason to come to the opposite conclusion. But here's the most amazing thing about that. The intelligence committee assessment it was just getting started, which means he's either clairvoyant or he knew the fix was in and he knew they were coming to a predetermined. And it's so amazing to watch Barack Obama because he says it spontaneously. He leaves the room. The transcript shows he comes back and like, oh, I gotta clarify that. They're still looking at that. He realized that he had given up a golden goose in that interview and made a big mistake. Now, John Durham and Bill Barr could have found that conversation. They didn't, and that's why those earlier investigations were weak.
Yes.
Will the current investigation go that far and find these things and impeach these politicians for lying to us? That's going to be a big question.
There's a lot that I want to ask you about. Bob Mueller is one of the guys who was just sent a subpoena by the House Oversight Committee.
Yep.
The House Oversight Committee is looking for answers on the Epstein case.
Oh, yeah.
But my fervent hope is that they ask questions about both the Russiagate stuff and the Epstein case while they have these people in front of them. But Bob Mueller catches a subpoena. There are a number of outlets reporting, and perhaps you have more information on this, John, that Bob Mueller is in a home for the memory impaired now. It is pretty obvious to those of us who watched his testimony in 2019 that he was falling short of being able to string it all together. You know, this to me, if that's true, what that
evolve with it. And then as he started to see those signs, you saw Andrew Weissman take more and more of a role. And I think Andrew Weissman will be the next person subpoenaed in that, if we get to that thing. Now, keep in mind, they want Mueller to go back to 2008 because the real tragedy of Epstein is that the Bush Justice Department ignored their responsibilities and gave that man a sweetheart deal.
Yes.
And then Alberto Gonzalez and the U.S. Attorney and the FBI agents who worked that case, they need to answer for why they let a clear human trafficking operation go with a literally tap on the finger.
So among the people that they've sent subpoenas to in this are Eric Holder, Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, Alberto Gonzalez, as you mentioned. There's a number of people. Eric Holder has already been held in contempt of Congress for his own behavior during Operation Fast and Furious, but that was never prosecuted because guess who who was the Attorney General? Eric Holder, so they didn't prosecute it. But if Eric Holder or any one of these other guys fail to appear before Congress, having received a lawful subpoena, will Republicans, in your view, hold them in contempt of Congress?
I believe they will, because we now have the Bannon and Navarro standard, and that is fresh in the minds of a lot of members of Congress who thought that wasn't the appropriate way to go, or certainly not the consistent way to go. Maybe it is the appropriate way, but it wasn't consistent with how Congress acted in the past. So nobody's going to get a pass in this environment anymore. I think this version of Republicans, with Donald Trump constantly holding a blowtorch to the backside of everyone, they're going to get stuff done. They have a little bit more courage, and when they lose that courage, Donald Trump turns up the temperature until they find their courage. And I think that this is going to be a very no excuses made. And I think what you may see eventually is that these different individual committees come together and potentially create one large truth commission. And we just look at the era of weaponization, much like we looked at the CIA and FBI abuses during the 1970s time frame, where Congress put together an extraordinary, the Church Commission. It was a truth commission. We may need something like that, because this is so epic in terms of how much abuse occurred during those 10 years.
I'd be for that. The one thing I would be worried about, though, is any delay in justice. The Justice Department needs to move independently of any truth commission.
100%. 100%. In fact, the Justice Department should sit a person in the Truth Commission hearings every day, and the second someone lies in that hearing, as soon as they walk out, they can just put cuffs on them and take them in, because they know the truth. And I think the great risk here for a Barack Obama or Hillary Clinton is they're going to try to keep the cover story. And that cover story could walk them into new crimes right now beyond the conspiracy case, which I think you rightly see.
Okay. Last thing, the Washington Post overnight produced a piece that claims that Tulsi Gabbard had to override CIA officials' concerns in a push to declassify all of this Russian information. And when I see CIA officials' concerns, I'm pretty sure they don't mean John Ratcliffe, the director of the CIA. What they mean is deep state CIA people who are still there creating a resistance against the kind of transparency we've been getting from the government. What can you tell us about all this?
Yeah, I know a lot about this. I may have even been approached at some point by the CIA because I'd been advocating for the release of the HIPSI. It's the HIPSI report, the Devin Nunes report. There was just one passage that they fought over, which they ultimately, Tulsi Gabbard erred on the side of giving the American people the maximum transparency. But there was one passage that does reveal the existence of a spy and a spy program that they were, I think, concerned about. I don't think this was a large deep state plot. I think it was a legitimate debate over one thing. I think at the end of the day, Tulsi Gabbard did the American public a favor. It's 10 years. If you haven't been able to figure out how to protect these programs, it's a little late to argue. But I think it was a legitimate argument over sources and methods. It wasn't the whole report. We're not releasing the whole report. It was just one item in it.
But if you're interested in protecting sources and methods and you're the government, then you should be absolutely scandalized by John Brennan's behavior in 2016, because John Brennan finds out that Hillary Clinton is orchestrating this fake hoax. He contacts Russia. We just found out in the declassified annex. He contacts Russia and he goes, "We know about this intel." And then suddenly that intel dries up because John Brennan tipped them off about our sources and methods, John.
Yeah, no, listen, Brennan has so much to answer for. He's such an important person in this entire methodology. James Comey's another one. There's no chance that James Comey doesn't know that he's investigating something that was a political dirty trick and manufactured. And I go back to what I said at the beginning of Watergate. When people turned on Nixon, the Republicans turned on Nixon when they realized he had asked the CIA, just asked them to maybe stop the FBI from investigating the burglary. The CIA actually didn't do it, but the mere asking caused his party to vote for him. Here, you've got the CIA and the FBI both manipulating and taking overt, consistent, and continuous actions to mislead the American people, abuse the tools that they were given, turn them against the American people and the person they had just elected, Donald Trump. This is epically more CIA and FBI involvement in wrongdoing than anything we saw in Watergate. And the Democrats are nothing to see here. Please, it's Russian disinformation. I think Comey and Brennan are going to be the two central characters that we're going to see a lot about in the next few weeks.
Well, that's what John Ratcliffe certainly indicated a couple weeks ago, that they're the two. They're involved in a conspiracy. And the reason we know so much about this is because of your great reporting. John Solomon, Just the News.
Thank you, Vince.
Appreciate you as always.
Yeah, I love your show.
Thanks, man. I love your show too. That's John Solomon. He's great, and always so good to have him on this subject especially. Okay, So we'll keep our eyes open for what comes next. There is supposed to be more declassification coming in the days and weeks ahead, too. That's what the reports are indicating. So whatever pops up, we will share it with you here. And I will. Let me just append kind of a general thought on it, because I was kind of keeping an eye on the chat as we were going. And as always, there's going to be people who think that, hey, nothing will come of this. And that may very well be the case. You might be right. Maybe nothing does come of it. And I will be disappointed. And I know the effect of that at a societal level is it would disenchant people even more from thinking that they have any role in influencing the nature of our system or righting this ship. And then as they check out of politics, the effect of that is going to be that the left will win if you check out. That's just the truth. And I'm not saying people here are going to check out, but I'm saying at a societal level that effect could happen. So this is why it's so deeply important that these Republicans in Congress get President Trump the U.S. attorneys he needs to support the prosecutions that John and I were just talking about. The fact that these guys failed to go into a real recess to allow President Trump to make recess appointments is insane to me. It is completely insane. It is suicidal that these Republicans did this. They need to get their acts together quickly. The impact on the midterms will be profound. Republicans will find themselves back in the political wilderness if they can't get this right. We want the economy to be sound. We want the borders to be secured. And we want accountability for the people who've broken our laws. That's the key. That's the absolute key. So this is a very big deal. And the left wants you to give this up, by the way. The left would desperately like for you to give this up. That's the reason why every time this subject comes up, they either say it's fake, that it's a Russian conspiracy or something for us to be talking about it now, or they say that this is a distraction from Epstein. No, we're not distracted. Unlike you, we can handle multiple things at once. We got a lot of messes to clean up, and this audience wants to see it cleaned up now. We have a great country, so stay focused on what you care about, and let's see this through to the end, no matter how long it takes. We're just going to keep fighting them, which is really important. Really, really important. Okay, let's see what else I have to share with you. Oh, this is great. This is one of the funniest clips I've seen all week. Cut 5 here, guys. So here's what I want to tell you about. There's chatter going on about what it'll look like, whether or not we can colonize the moon someday, if we could put a nuclear reactor on the moon. It's just going on and on. But over on CBS, they had a very low IQ conversation with this television science guy called Neil deGrasse Tyson. And the host on CBS said, one of the problems with colonizing the moon would be that it's racist. Take a look.
If we want to keep growing a population, or if we want to live forever, all right, we're going to need another planet.
So is that the moon? Because I
don't want to live on the moon.
Right? Will it serve as a functional life source eventually for human beings? And B, we know how the age of colonialism worked on this planet. Should we be trying to colonize and saying that there's a keep-out zone that not other countries can participate in having?
Well, the real problem with the colonization history in Western civilization is that there were people already there. Right? There are no moon beings that were displaced.
As far as we know.
The conversation is so stupid on every level. But that word, colonization, I've been trained to think it's a bad thing. So if we colonize the moon, isn't that a bad thing? Even Neil deGrasse Tyson, of all people, is like, you sound like an idiot. That's Neil deGrasse Tyson's reaction in so many words. But he was like, well, the real problem with colonization is that there were people there. I'm sorry. Why don't we talk about the virtues of colonization? How come nobody at the table can raise the idea that isn't it nice that colonization brought civilization to the entire Western Hemisphere? Nobody's going to speak up for the advancement of humanity because of colonization? No, nothing like that. Nothing like that on CBS. So thanks, fellas. Great conversation. You know that guy, what's his name? I don't even know what the name of the host is, but here's what I do know. He's paid more than all of us to not know anything. Isn't that weird? What is the salary that guy receives? It's a lot more than any of us. And he's sitting there just freestyling it. Colonization, I think that's a bad word. Great. Good work, CBS. That company dying the death it deserves. Hey, thanks as always for joining us on this edition of Vince. Hey, tomorrow, real quick for you, tomorrow, a couple of quick notes. We're going to do a special edition of Vince. Producer Jim is going to be here. I'm going to have Haley Caranillo with me. We're going to have a great conversation. I can't wait for this. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're down here in Florida. I'm going to conclude Florida week right here with the guys. And also, if things work out, Major has just concluded his own vacation and will be joining us tomorrow here. Well, I guess technically he's still on vacation if he's here in Florida. But whatever, the stage of his vacation where he joins me should be tomorrow, live, right here in Florida. It's going to be great. Great to have you with us as always. Thanks for checking in on this edition of Vince. Up next, Steven Crowder, right here on Rumble.